Discover the incredible moment a millionaire transformed a woman's tears at the airport into hope. Ava's heart raced as she sat on the cold metal bench at Chicago O'Hare International Airport, clutching her worn leather portfolio like a lifeline. Today was critical, a job interview that could break the cycle of despair circling her family since her husband's unexpected death. Dressed in her best blazer, she tried to present confidence, yet the worry lines etched on her face told a different story. 2 children depended on her, and a mounting pile of bills loomed like a storm cloud over her head. Would she be able to make it through this interview and secure a better future? What if she failed? Memories swirled around her like fog. Laughter once filled their home, echoing against the walls, alive with their children's voices. But that life felt like a distant dream now. She missed her husband. His aspirations for their family had been shattered in an instant. The silence engulfed her, throat tightening with unshed tears. She closed her eyes, allowing the salty streams to escape her grief spilling forth in the midst of hurried travelers who couldn't see the storm raging within her. As she struggled for composure, a well-dressed man in his late 40s caught her eye. Ethan strode through the busy terminal, and for a moment, their gazes locked. Her vulnerability must have pulled at something deep inside him. He slowed his pace, a smile forming on his lips as he approached her. "Do you need a moment?" he asked, his voice laced with genuine concern. Taken aback by his kindness, Ava felt an inexplicable urge to share her fears. Hustle and bustle faded into the background, and, before she knew it, she was speaking her truth, the overwhelming weight of single parenthood, the crushing stress looming over this interview. As Ethan listened, she saw flickers of understanding in his eyes. He began sharing his own story, revealing how he had once fought through his own struggles to become who he was today. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. A glimmer of hope ignited within Ava as Ethan offered advice about interview strategies, providing her with insights she hadn't considered. But just as she felt a connection growing, a wave of tension crashed over them. A casual mention of his late father sent a chill through their conversation. Ava froze, heart racing. His father had been the investor behind the factory that had upended her family's lives, the very source of her grief. Caught between gratitude and resentment, she recoiled. Could she truly accept this man's guidance when the very fabric of her suffering was woven into his family's story? And Ethan, faced with the implications of that connection, felt the uncomfortable weight of privilege he could not ignore. The air thickened with unspoken words, a deafening reminder of the past both had tried to escape. As they sat, burdens heavy on their shoulders, Ava confronted a silent battle, one she didn't know how to win. Could she trust him? Was this connection even worth pursuing if it meant dragging the painful past into any semblance of a hopeful future? Anxiety tightened around her like a noose, their shared stories intertwining as they both grappled with conflicting truths, their journeys backlit by sorrow, yet heading toward potential healing. And so they stood in that turbulent airport, suspended in uncertainty. The question loomed: how would their paths continue to intertwine, and would Ava find the strength to embrace the opportunity in front of her, or would the echoes of their intertwined fates pull them apart before they even began to hope? Ava blinked, processing Ethan's revelation as if he had turned a spotlight on a shadowy corner of her past. The feeling of solidarity they had been building was now a tightrope over a chasm of betrayal and hurt. The factory, a place branded in her memory by loss, now had a face attached, a face of a man who was reaching out to help in an unexpected way. "Ethan, I need to go," she blurted out, every instinct screaming at her to retreat. She stood, adjusting her blazer and feeling the weight of the portfolio slipping from her fingers. "Thank you for your time and the advice, but..." "Wait," he said, his voice firm but gentle. "I understand this is complicated. Believe me, I didn't expect to meet you like this either. But I'm not my father, and neither of us deserves to be defined by our family histories." His words struck a chord. The conviction and sincerity in his voice ignited a flicker of confrontation within her, a defiance against the suffocating grief that had held her in chains for too long. This wasn't just about Ethan or his lineage. It was about her, about rising from the ruins of her past. For a brief moment, the narrative of despair she had been living began to crack. What do you know about grief? Ava suddenly challenged, the words escaping her mouth before she could filter them. You have no idea what it's like to lose everything. To watch the hope drain from your children's eyes. Ethan extended his hand, palm up, as if attempting to bridge the emotional gap. And yet, here you are, standing on the threshold of a new opportunity. Let us talk about that for a moment. Don't you want to seize it? The tension danced between them, charged but electrifying. She hesitated, grappling with an internal war. Should she allow herself to take a chance on this unexpected connection? I can't just negate the pain of my past, she murmured, conflict threading through her voice. It's not that simple. Then, let us acknowledge it together, he said. I don't want to erase your pain, but maybe we can find a way to move forward in spite of it. His words wrapped around her like an embrace, chest tightening with possibility. Perhaps she didn't have to walk this journey of healing alone. Still, doubt pricked at the edges of her resolve, whispering words of caution. What if trusting him led to more heartache? I have a job interview, she said, desperate to cling to the mission that had brought her here. I can't afford to get distracted. And the interview can wait, Ethan responded, making a strategic shift in tone. What if I help you prepare? What if I teach you how to leverage your story instead of avoid it? Your situation could resonate with your potential employer more than you think. Anger can be powerful fuel when channeled correctly. For the first time, Ava felt the stirrings of fear give way to curiosity. What if he was right? There was truth in harnessing the storm instead of letting it drown her. Taking a deep breath, she knotted her brows, discerning where she would go from here. Okay, she relented, piqued by the prospect of learning something new. If I'm going to face this job, I need to turn the pain into purpose. Teach me. Ethan smiled, the tension in the air easing but not dissipating entirely. In the minutes that passed while they forged a nascent alliance, Ava felt the grip of her despair loosen ever so slightly. She began to envision herself as a resilient warrior instead of a victim of circumstance. But as they dove deeper into strategies and rehearsals, the shadows of her unresolved feelings loomed larger than ever. The question still lingered: was she genuinely prepared to transform this connection into a lifeline, or was she merely grasping at straws? As the clock ticked down to her interview, doubt crept back in. This newfound alliance with Ethan felt like a double-edged sword, offering support but also heaping expectations upon her frail shoulders. Minimizing the mounting anxiety within, she forced herself to focus. What if this turns out to be a mistake? The hushed whisper taunted her. Every beat of her heart carried her closer to a reckoning. The moment of truth bore down like a freight train on her thoughts. What awaited her in that interview room? But in that moment, vulnerability intertwined with determination. The air hummed with unresolved conflict, both personal and professional, as everything lay on the precipice of change. And as the airport's ambient sounds welled around her, Ava realized this path of growth would require more than adaptation. It demanded the confrontation of her deepest fears. What would happen next as she stepped into the world that lay beyond the baggage claims of her past? That remained to be seen, and the uncertainty was palpably thick as they prepared. Ava focused intently on Ethan, adjusting her posture as she prepared herself for this unconventional lesson. His steady gaze offered a kind of reassurance she had not anticipated. Still, anxiety gnawed at her. She was going to have to confront not just the external challenge of the interview, but the internal upheaval that had long dictated her life decisions. Let's start with your story, Ethan encouraged, shifting into a coaching mode that highlighted his confidence. Tell me about the challenges you've faced and how you've handled them. Ava hesitated, the familiar weight of her past threatening to paralyze her. She could almost hear her father's voice, the comforting growl, the insistence that vulnerability was a sign of weakness. It was a belief she had carried with her until now. But this wasn't her father's narrative, it was hers. She had survived. All right, she managed, her voice trembling at the edges. When my family lost everything, I was thrown into an adult world too quickly. I had to watch my mother fight just to keep us fed while I buried my dreams, believing I'd never be worthy of them. Ethan nodded, his expression encouraging. That is powerful. But what did you take away from it? What lessons did you learn amidst all that chaos? Ava inhaled sharply, her heart racing as she unearthed the smaller truths buried in the ashes of despair. I learned resilience. The word hung in the air, potent and undeniable. Even when hope felt impractical, I had to find a way to keep going for my family. It was more than survival. I had to adapt and reinvent myself. See, there's your anchor. Ethan leaned forward, his enthusiasm infectious. You can use that in your interview. Employers want authenticity. They need to see that you've not only overcome, but thrived in the face of adversity. As they conversed, Ava started a mental catalog of her strengths. She had been a caretaker, an unintentional negotiator in a high-stakes household, a survivor. Each piece of her story was a fragment. She could leverage different facets of the same diamond forged under pressure. Now, let us practice, Ethan suggested, pulling out a mock interview guide. The first question rolled off his tongue. Why do you want this job? Ava felt her pulse quicken. This was it she had to perform. I want to work for a company that values tenacity and innovation. I can bring my experience of love and loss. I know what it means to fight for your beliefs and turn challenges into opportunities. Good, he affirmed, his tone filled with quiet confidence. But let us deepen it. Make them feel your urgency. This is about more than just answering questions. It's about constructing a relationship. The challenge pushed her. Ava began to articulate her points more fiercely, drawing connections between her past and her envisioned future. Each answer felt less rehearsed and more like an authentic conversation. This was her truth, and she began to find empowerment in revealing it. Yet, even in this moment of clarity, whispers of doubt clawed at her. For every assertion of hope, a shadow crept back. What if she failed? Would sharing her story open old wounds? The mental tug-of-war left her breathless. Ethan noticed the shift, his brows knitting together. Ava, you're not just performing. You're embodying your growth. The fear won't vanish. Embracing it is part of the process. Think back to those lessons of resilience. His words resonated. Each challenge she faced in the past had only strengthened her spirit. That truth could wield power not just in an interview, but in every corner of her life. As the practice session drew to a close, Ava surveyed the small expanse filled with her untamed vulnerability and growing boldness. She could see a future emerging beyond the turmoil. It was tethered firmly to her authenticity. But before she could lean into this newfound courage, Ethan stepped closer, his expression serious. Ava, I have to warn you. When you begin to put yourself out there, some people may not handle it well. Be prepared for pushback. Not everyone will resonate with your honesty. Pushback? She echoed, the word awakening a fresh wave of doubt. Yes, he continued, his voice quiet but firm. This is a critical moment for you, both personally and professionally. Are you ready to face that? To confront whatever negativity comes your way? The question hung heavy in the air, a challenge twisting itself around her heart. In that moment, Ava stood on the thin line between vulnerability and bravery. Behind her loomed shadows of her past, while in front of her stretched the prospect of a passionate future, one ripe with possibilities and dangers alike. What awaited her beyond the threshold of the interview? The weight of her choice felt monumental, and uncertainty crackled like electricity. As she took a steadying breath, the answers remained just out of reach, circling her thoughts. But she knew, whether through fear or courage, she had to push forward. The time had come to confront the unknown. Would she embrace the storm or be swept away? Ava's mind buzzed with Ethan's warning. As she exited the training session, the sun poured through the glass doors, casting long shadows on the pavement. The weight of her past still pressed against her chest, but something had shifted. She was no longer just a victim of her circumstances, but a woman ready to reclaim her narrative. Walking to her car, she mulled over Ethan's insights. His belief in her potential ignited a flicker of determination. Still, the anxiety lingered, a persistent reminder of the emotional landmines she had yet to navigate. She turned the keys in the ignition, and the engine's roar mirrored the chaotic thoughts racing within. The drive home felt long, each street sign a testimony to her relentless journey. She needed to prepare not just for the interview, but for the emotional turbulence accompanying it. Would she remain grounded when faced with rejection or judgment? The apprehension reignited her urgency to grow. She knew she had to hone her ability to embrace vulnerability, not just to survive, but to flourish. Arriving home, Ava sank into her favorite armchair, a worn-out piece of furniture that had seen her through countless battles. She could feel the rough fabric beneath her fingers, each thread a part of her story. Pulling her laptop onto her lap, she opened a blank document, the cursor blinking expectantly. What did she want out of this process? Beyond the job opportunity, she craved self-acceptance. With a few deep breaths, she began typing. She didn't hold back. She wrote about her insecurities, her dreams, and the sheer force of her determination. The words poured out like a cathartic release, both terrifying and liberating. Time slipped away as she crafted her narrative. Each sentence solidified her identity, a tapestry woven with resilience, tenacity, and hope. She glanced at the clock, realizing hours had passed. Yet, the truth was clearer. This interview was not merely a trial. It was a stepping stone toward realizing her capabilities. With renewed conviction, Ava set a goal. She would rehearse her story until it flowed naturally, seamlessly integrating her vulnerabilities with her professional aspirations. She could see the path forward. It was littered with potential pitfalls, yet illuminated by her dreams. That night, sleep eluded her as thoughts of the upcoming interview danced in her mind. What if she stumbled? What if her truth elicited discomfort? But she had no choice. Standing still meant succumbing to the shadows of doubt. She clung to Ethan's words. Embracing her fears was part of the journey. The next day, she woke with an urgent desire to prepare. Each moment became an opportunity not just to rehearse answers, but to challenge herself. She constructed practice scenarios, friends, colleagues, even her own reflection in the mirror became her interviewers. The authenticity she strived to convey crystallized with each mock engagement. When the day finally arrived, Ava decked herself in a tailored suit, something sharp and professional. It was a second skin that empowered her. The crisp fabric felt foreign yet right. As she approached the building, its sleek design mirrored her aspirations. But standing at the entrance, anxiety rippled through her. She paused, heart racing, on the brink of her most important moment yet. Taking a deep breath, she remembered the feeling she had when she first opened her laptop and let her truth flow. It was time to embody that essence, to transmute her fear into confidence. With each step inside, she felt the echoes of her past fade slightly, the weight lifting as new possibilities emerged. What awaited her in that room of judgment and opportunity? Ava gathered herself, the moment of truth arriving like a tidal wave, ready to engulf everything in its path. Would she sink or swim? The stakes had never been higher. The moment Ava stepped into the sleek, modern building, her senses heightened. The concrete walls, interspersed with glass panels, enhanced her feeling of being subjected to scrutiny, each reflection a silent judgment, each passerby a reminder of her vulnerabilities. She fought the urge to retreat, knowing she had worked too hard to turn back now. Inside, the waiting area buzzed with murmurs of other candidates. Fear mingled with determination in her gut. This wasn't merely an interview for a job. It was a confrontation with everything she had endured. The faces around her were a mix of confidence and uncertainty. She recognized each emotion mirrored in her own heart. Finding a corner, she settled into a chair, folding her hands tightly over her lap as a nervous tick. She closed her eyes briefly, regulating her breath. Each inhalation was a reminder of her resilience. Each exhalation a release of panic. This moment could define her future. It was time to embrace the gravity of her aspirations. After what felt like an eternity, her name echoed through the waiting room, cutting through the ambient chatter like a sharp blade. Ava stood, her legs somewhat unsteady but her resolve strengthening. As she walked towards the interview room, she recalled the words she had written, the catharsis evoked during her intimate digital confessions. She wasn't just a candidate, she was Ava, a woman with a story worth telling. Inside, the panel of three sat before her, their expressions neutral yet contemplative. She could feel their eyes assessing her, probing beyond her tailored suit and polished exterior. It was time to confront her fears head-on. "Tell us about yourself," the lead interviewer prompted. Ava's heart raced as she shifted her perspective. This was her moment to reclaim her narrative. Instead of reciting rehearsed lines filled with corporate jargon, She leaned into authenticity. I'm a survivor, she started, and as the words left her mouth, they felt both heavy and liberating. I have faced my share of challenges, but those experiences have shaped my dedication and resilience in the workplace. With each word, she felt that the weight of her past was transforming into a powerful asset. She recounted her struggles not for sympathy, but to illuminate her journey. As she spoke, she noticed subtle shifts on the panel's faces, raises of eyebrows, nods of understanding. This was new territory for her. She was not just asking for acceptance. She was demanding recognition of her growth. By the time she reached the conclusion of her narrative, Ava realized she was no longer just addressing her past wounds, but showcasing her strengths, her adaptability, and her commitment. The panel listened intently, their body language shifting from passive observers to engaged participants in her story. Why should we choose you? Came the final question, charged with the weight of potential rejection. It seemed the culmination of everything she had worked for. Because I will bring my authenticity and passion to this role, she replied, the conviction rising in her voice. I understand the value of perseverance, and I won't shy away from adversity. I'm ready to embrace every challenge that comes my way, for my success lies in the depth of my experience. There was a brief silence, during which she felt a mix of hope and fear intertwining within her. This wasn't just an interview. It was a bold assertion of her worth. As Ava exited the room, a sense of elation washed over her. She had not merely survived the experience, she had thrived in it. But the questions lingered. Would the panel see her potential? Were the words enough to forge a connection, or had she risked too much by exposing her vulnerabilities? The impending weight for their decision loomed over her, stirring a mix of anticipation and dread. In the days that followed, Ava channeled the unresolved tension into productivity. She dug into her work, focused on tasks that bolstered her skills, but the uncertainty about the interview gnawed at her mind. A knock at her door startled her from a particularly engrossing project. She opened it, heart racing. Standing before her was a familiar face, Ethan. He had a knowing look in his eyes, one that conveyed both anticipation and concern. Can we talk? He asked, and Ava sensed gravity in his tone. What was he about to say? Had he heard something? Ava stepped aside to let Ethan in, closing the door behind him as her heart pounded to a familiar rhythm of anxiety. She couldn't shake the feeling that whatever he had to say would either provide clarity or plunge her deeper into uncertainty. Is everything okay? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan hesitated, searching for the right words. I know you've been waiting to hear back about the interview, and I thought you might want to discuss it, he said, leaning against her desk, his arms crossed as a protective stance. She appreciated his concern, but a part of her was resistant to any further reflection on her emotional turbulence. Did you hear something? She replied, feeling a stirring in her gut. No, I wish I had news, but I do want to talk about your interview. I saw how you handled yourself, and I know how much this means to you. His voice was steady, yet she sensed an edge of worry. Ava nodded, pulling away from the moment, trying to refocus on the task at hand, the work that had consumed her the last few days. The interview was behind her now, or at least it should have been. I tried to be honest, to show them who I am without masks. It felt right. It did. And that's why I think you need to remember that part of yourself, Ethan encouraged. Don't lose sight of the progress you've made. You've transformed your narrative into strength, and now it's time to own that. His words clung to her thoughts, though doubt lingered. Yes, she had shared a version of her truth, but would it be enough? Buried beneath her self-reflection was an unsettling fear that perhaps her vulnerabilities would be seen as flaws rather than assets. Still, I can't help but feel exposed, she confessed. What if they don't care about the struggles I overcame? What if they just see a risk? Ethan stepped closer, his gaze unwavering, and she felt a surge of warmth. Vulnerability isn't a weakness. It's the first step in establishing trust. The right people will see that. She needed to believe him. It was a daunting leap, but if Ethan was lending her his support, it might just be the boost she needed. What if I've put everything on the line and it still doesn't change anything? Her voice wavered as she wrestled with the fear of failure. Then you try again, he stated softly. This process, it's about more than just one job or one interview. It's about reshaping how you view your own journey in the world. You've already begun that process. Ethan was right. She realized in an instant. She had already taken control of her narrative in ways she had never thought possible. "Thank you, Ethan," Ava said, a genuine smile breaking through her uncertainty. "You always manage to keep me grounded." With that, she found the courage to refocus. They began brainstorming practical steps she could take while waiting for the response. They mapped out potential projects and networking opportunities that could hone her skills further, layering her confidence with concrete actions. After a while, Ethan shifted the conversation. "I want you to think about your next steps no matter what the outcome is. Consider avenues you haven't explored yet skills you haven't tested. This is about movement, Ava, a journey moving forward irrespective of one door that may or may not open." His words ignited a new flame in her, filling her with determination beyond the confines of a single opportunity. She needed to cultivate that growth regardless of the outcome. "Maybe I could volunteer for some projects or join a professional group. I could even look into workshops that focus on." Before she could finish her thought, her phone buzzed, jolting her from her contemplative state. She pulled it out, and her eyes widened. An email notification flashed across the screen from the company she had just interviewed with. Ethan leaned forward, peering over her shoulder. "Open it," he urged, and they both held their breaths as Ava's finger hovered over the screen. The moment felt pregnant with possibility. Would it be a return to the hopeful momentum they had just built, or the stark end of her aspirations? She inhaled deeply, preparing to confront whatever awaited her. Slowly, she pressed her finger against the screen, bracing herself, the future hanging in the balance. The message on her screen was clear, yet the words blurred together as she read through the rejection email. "Unfortunately, we have decided to pursue other candidates at this time." Each letter felt like a weight pressing down on her chest, the air thick with disappointment. She swallowed hard, an impulse to look up and mask her feelings. But the moment was real. Her vulnerability had fully translated into exposure. Ethan's expression changed instantly from anticipation to concern. "Ava," he murmured, his voice low, an anchor against the chaos of her thoughts. "I'm so sorry. Are you okay?" The dam inside her faltered, but she fought back the rush of emotions. She didn't want to crumble. She wanted to be the person who soared above setbacks. "It's just," she began, the vulnerability creeping back in, but she pushed it away. "It stings, but it's just a part of the process, right?" Ethan stepped closer, his concern palpable. "It's okay to feel what you're feeling. Allow it. You've put your heart into this, and it's only natural to be upset." Yet, as she inhaled again, a different emotion began to surface, frustration mingled with determination. This was not the end of her story. "You're right. I can't dwell on this," she said, her voice steadying. "I know this isn't the only path." She immediately thought of the brainstorming session they had just enjoyed. A flicker of inspiration ignited within her. "Those workshops you mentioned, the volunteer projects, what if I dove into one of those opportunities right now?" The idea was empowering. Turning rejection into action felt revolutionary in that moment. "Exactly," Ethan responded, relief washing over his features. "See, you're thinking ahead. That mindset is invaluable." As she sat up straighter, feeling a resurgence of strength, the thoughts began to flood in. Networking within her community, honing new skills in areas she hadn't fully explored, digital marketing, project management, public speaking, each potential avenue was brimming with promise. What if she approached these experiences as a chance to reinvent herself? She could gather a portfolio from the volunteer projects, build connections that might lead to referrals, showcase her skills beyond the interview process. She refocused her energy into possibilities. "I'll reach out to that community center I've been meaning to volunteer at. They have a mentorship program for young professionals that could be a good fit." Ethan nodded, a proud smile forming on his lips. That's the spirit. Making connections, gaining experience at all enhance your value. Inside, she could feel the momentum shift. It wasn't about the rejection anymore, but about what she could learn from it. She decided in that moment that she wouldn't let this setback define her. "Thank you for pushing me, Ethan. I needed that perspective," she said, her gaze aiming for the window where rays of sunlight streamed in, illuminating a path forward. But there was still a lingering question gnawing at her subconscious. What if she didn't just grow from this experience? What if she found a way to contribute meaningfully to others who faced similar doubts or challenges? The potential to extend her journey beyond personal growth ignited a fire she couldn't ignore. As they continued to brainstorm next steps, Ava's heart was racing not with anxiety, but with a burgeoning sense of purpose. She felt both empowered and ready to explore uncharted territories about herself. Little did she know, this shift in focus would soon lead her to a fateful encounter that would change her trajectory in ways she couldn't yet imagine. The question lingered in the air between them. Could she truly harness her recent experiences into a newfound calling, one that could not only redefine her career but shape her identity? The answer awaited just beyond the next choice she was about to make. Ava inhaled deeply, dismissing the twinge of self-doubt that threatened to creep back in. With a clear focus, she moved towards her laptop, opening it with purpose. A search for the community center she had in mind was just a few clicks away. As she typed, each stroke was infused with newfound resolve. This wasn't just about finding volunteering opportunities. It was a strategic step towards a greater purpose. Once the webpage loaded, she discovered that there were workshops scheduled on various topics: marketing, leadership, even emotional intelligence. The workshops had an application process, but the thought of honing her skills excited her. The focus was no longer on the rejection, but on the foundation she could build for herself. What if I attend one of those workshops? They might have contacts who can help me, she said aloud, almost to the lingering shadows of doubt in her mind. Ethan leaned over her shoulder, scanning the information on the screen. That's it, Ava. Each workshop is a stepping stone. You're not just getting experience, you're networking with potential mentors. His enthusiasm was infectious, propelling her energy further upward. With each passing moment, clarity settled into her mind like a calm river. Instead of letting this rejection confine her, she was choosing to expand her horizons. Yet, beneath the surface of her eagerness, Ava felt an underlying current of fear. What if she wasn't as competent as she hoped? What if the workshops just reinforced her inadequacies? Shaking herself free from the negative spiral, she latched onto the idea of volunteering not just as a means to gain experience, but as an opportunity to give back. She pictured mentoring someone, sharing the insights she had gained through her own struggles. The salon's atmosphere, typically bustling with conversation, now felt metaphorically replaced by a quiet yet charged space, where Ava's ambitions were becoming palpable. After completing her application for the workshop, she sat back, satisfaction washing over her. The walls around her career felt less constricting, replaced with an open expanse of potential. But amidst the thrill of her new plans, questions persisted. Would attending these workshops truly change anything? Were there aspects of her personality, yet unexplored, that might surprise her? Later that week, as she walked into the community center for her first workshop, the vibrancy of the space almost overwhelmed her senses. Excited chattering filled the room, warm light illuminating faces eager to learn. The palpable energy was contagious, yet a pang of self-awareness coursed through her. As she introduced herself to the group, she felt more exposed than she had anticipated. The vulnerability returned, not from rejection, but from stepping into the unknown. She grappled with the realization that even while she pursued growth, self-doubt could persist. The workshop leader, a seasoned marketing professional, caught her eye. "Each of you possesses unique strengths that can blossom in this environment," she said, her voice imbued with encouragement. It was a moment of revelation for Ava. Perhaps her current identity did not need to be defined by past rejections, but instead could be crafted by new experiences, collaborations, and willingness to learn. As she engaged in various exercises throughout the session, her enthusiasm began to stir. They were tasked with brainstorming ideas on community outreach, and as they shared, Ava discovered a knack for articulating strategies that surprised even herself. Ideas flowed naturally. She felt invigorated, proud of her contributions. This surge of creativity was proof that her abilities were more expansive than she had ever realized. But just as her confidence danced on the horizon, a faint doubt nagged at her. What if her voice didn't matter in the grand scheme? The specter of being overlooked whispered insidiously in her ear. With the workshop concluding, she couldn't shake the feeling of the unexpected path still looming ahead, waiting for her to take a bold step into the uncertain. She heard the leader mention an upcoming networking event, a chance to showcase what they had learned. Ava felt her heartbeat quicken, balancing on the edge of fear and anticipation. Would she find the courage to put herself out there again, to embrace vulnerability while forging connections that could amplify her journey? As excitement warred with apprehension, she couldn't ignore the thought that maybe this moment right at the edge of possibility was about to shape everything that followed. And with that, Ava made a decision that would carry her a step further into the unknown, igniting her desire to leverage her growing skills in a completely new way. But was she truly prepared for what lay ahead, where personal growth might collide with unforeseen challenges? The answer was waiting just around the corner. Ava's pulse quickened as the days passed leading up to the networking event. The anticipation felt like a living entity within her, shifting from excitement to trepidation with each passing hour. She revisited her notes from the workshop daily, meticulously refining her pitch and rehearsal of what she would say, but doubt still lingered like a shadow. What if she floundered when speaking to experienced professionals? On the day of the event, she donned a simple yet professional outfit, a navy blazer that framed her determined posture. Standing in front of the mirror, she focused on her reflection and the belief that she had cultivated over the past few weeks. "This is an opportunity, not a test," she whispered to herself, trying to anchor her thoughts in positivity. As she approached the venue, the energy pulsated with promise. Groups of enthusiastic professionals gathered, exchanging laughter and ideas, and something deep within Ava stirred. This was her moment, a threshold to cross into a narrative she wished to write, the narrative of her professional evolution. Inside, the atmosphere buzzed with connection. She took a slow breath, reminding herself to be open and approachable. The chatter and camaraderie enveloped her, and though she felt out of place, she pushed away the sinking sensation. She was here to build bridges, not walls. Ava approached a small cluster of attendees, introducing herself with just enough confidence to catch their attention. The conversation flowed easily as they exchanged ideas and aspirations. She found her footing, sharing insights she had gleaned from the workshop. The more she interacted, the more she realized that many others shared her uncertainties. Then, out of the corner of her eye, she spotted a figure that commanded attention, the event's keynote speaker, a recognized expert in marketing. The urge to approach him surged within her. This was her chance to glean wisdom from someone who had successfully navigated through the very uncertainties that plagued her. With her heart hammering, she stepped forward, forcing a smile as she introduced herself. "Hi, I'm Ava. I recently joined one of the workshops, and I'm eager to learn more about the marketing field." He nodded, genuinely interested as she passingly referenced her excitement about the strategies discussed in her session. To her astonishment, he leaned in closer, his expression shifting into one of engagement. "What specifically excited you about the concepts we dealt with in outreach?" For a brief moment, a wave of pride surged as she articulated her thoughts with clarity, recalling the exercises and group discussions. But as she spoke, a dawning realization hit her. These past weeks had not merely armed her with knowledge, they had unearthed her capabilities. Yet vulnerability danced just out of reach as she worried. Would the moment be fleeting? Would he remember her amidst a sea of others? After their exchange, he gave her his card, encouraging her to reach out. "Follow up, Ava. Let us discuss how you can enhance your skills further," he said, leaving her stunned. This was at an opening. Emotions mingled within her. A potent blend of joy and fear burgeoned. She could either seize this opportunity and follow through, or let it slip away into the tumult of uncertainty. As the evening wound down, Ava stood alone, processing the encounters. She felt the tremors of self-doubt stirring again, whispering the possibility of failing to capitalize on this chance. But amidst that chaos, clarity emerged. She was poised at a crossroad. Her greatest challenge lay not in finding opportunities, but in allowing herself to believe in her right to claim them. With a newfound sense of determination, she clutched the card tightly, understanding that the next steps wouldn't just define her career, they would reshape her identity. As the night deepened, so did her resolve to embrace this uncertain journey ahead with open arms. Yet, just as she made half-hearted plans for follow-ups, a familiar feeling crept in. A challenge was imminent, one that would test her. Beyond the ballroom, exposing her to even deeper uncertainties. How prepared was she to face what was coming next, and would fear compel her to retreat or push her to rise? The answer awaited her in the cascading aftermath. Ava stood before her laptop, the buzzing anticipation from the networking event still reverberating through her. The card from the keynote speaker rested near her keyboard, a tangible reminder of the potential that lay ahead. Her journey had already transformed so much, and it was time to show that her courage could extend beyond mere words. It had to manifest in definitive action. The email she drafted was hard-fought. "Thank you for your time," she began, her fingers hovering over the keyboard, the weight of her fear tugging at her. "I enjoyed our conversation at the event," as she continued. She infused her thoughts with gratitude and the intention to learn more, a commitment to embracing the opportunity unfolding before her. She clicked send with a steadiness that surprised her. In that moment, something shifted within Ava. She had transitioned from a woman floundering in despair to one eager to seize her future. It was a reclaiming of her narrative, a declaration that her experience had transformed into resilience and growth. Days turned into weeks, and as Ava continued to engage in workshops and volunteer opportunities, her network began to flourish. Each new connection sparked confidence, revealing skills she had long buried under layers of self-doubt. She contributed ideas in meetings, strategic marketing approaches that highlighted her keen eye for consumer engagement. Ava excelled not only in these contributions, but transformed her role into one of a budding leader. She took charge of projects at the community center, rekindling the passion she had for mentorship. She started volunteering to guide others through their challenges, sharing snippets of her own journey as a reminder that vulnerability could be a strength. With every interaction, she could feel the cycle of despair shatter further. Her children noticed the shift in her demeanor, the light and vibrancy returning. Dinners which once felt dull were filled with laughter, and as she wrapped her growing ambitions into the fabric of family life, she understood just how profoundly she had evolved. Then came the unexpected response. The speaker had invited her to meet him for a coffee to discuss her ideas further. As the date approached, anxiety simmered beneath her skin. This was an unforeseen opportunity, a leap that would call on her newfound confidence. The day arrived, and she dressed meticulously, selecting an outfit that matched not just the moment, but her enhanced self-image. In the cafe, as she waited for him, she focused on cultivating her heartbeat steady, assured, powerful. No longer would she shy away from her story. Now, she wore it as armor. "Hi, Ava," he said warmly as he approached the table. She noticed the glimmer of recognition in his eye, sparking excitement within her. Their conversation flowed as they discussed marketing trends and her burgeoning contributions to community projects. When she spoke about her experiences mentoring others, her voice rang with assurance. "You've really carved out a niche for yourself," he noted, a smile spreading across his face. It was a simple compliment, yet it lit a fire in her spirit. The validation resoundingly marked a new chapter, one where her identity shifted from a woman constrained by grief to a professional thriving against adversity. As they concluded, he leaned closer, gesturing with an earnestness that filled her with anticipation. "I'd love for you to join our team for a short project. We could use someone with your perspective." In that single instant, Ava felt everything crystallize. The culmination of her trials, introspection, and transformation had led her here. She had conquered the daunting fear of failure, reshaped her vulnerabilities into a source of strength, and created a life overflowing with potential. "Yes, I would love that," she responded, her enthusiasm palpable. As she left the cafe, Ava felt the confidence surging through her veins, carrying with it the weight of 1,000 past doubts. She was stepping into a new realm, arriving at a destination marked by fulfillment and purpose. The second chance she had fought for, this was it. The journey had evolved from tears at an airport bench to newfound hope. She had achieved not merely a professional opportunity, but a profound personal evolution that would ripple through every facet of her life. The cycle of despair was definitively broken. Ava had proven her resilience. The future was not just a series of doorways to navigate, but a realm she was actively shaping. Embracing her past molded her into who she was destined to become, and as she stepped into her next chapter, Ava now knew she would not only rise to meet challenges, but soar beyond them. If you found Ava's transformative journey inspiring, you need to subscribe now and don't wait even one more second to share this powerful story with friends who need a new perspective on resilience. Leave a like now to help fuel these narratives and comment your reactions and theories about the path Ava took to triumph. Your support means everything, and together, we can uplift countless voices.